Dear all, good afternoon. I would like to welcome you to all to this year's Common Maritime Agenda of Regional Stakeholder Conference for the Black Sea. First of all, before starting, I would like to announce the housekeeping rules, although I'm pretty sure that after 2 years of online meetings, we are all aware of them. However, I would like to go through. First of all, and most important, I would say, it's all of you to mute your microphone if you are not speaking, of course, and unmute it when it's your time to speak. We are a lot of participants already. We are about 170, so it will be much easier if all of us will mute ourselves. For the Q&A sessions, we will use Slido. So please use it to raise any comments or changes that you would like to have through Slido. We will have with us Diego Bioveyan and Eleni Fedorova, who are managing the technical aspects of the event. Feel free to contact them for any technicalities through the chat box of Zoom. So we use Slido for exchanges for the conference and the chat box just for technicalities of the Zoom. Presentations and documents of the meeting will be displayed afterwards on the BSAM Black Sea Assistance Mechanism website, and the link will be sent also within a dedicated Common Maritime Agenda newsletter. Of course, and finally, in order for us to improve the future events, we will kindly inviting you to share your opinion with a survey that we will share after the event, and we will really appreciate if you can take some time to fill that in. But let's go back to our event. The purpose of our event is to take stock of advancement in the implementation of the Common Maritime Agenda across the Black Sea. Main target is to foster discussions with all of you, the regional stakeholders, in areas for further action and concrete ways to ensure synergies across the various initiatives ongoing already in the region. It's important to mention that this year's Common Maritime Agenda Stakeholder Conference builds upon the results of previous editions of the conference in 2020, 2019, which actually was the last physical one that we had. Hopefully we will have the next one physical also, as well as further regional events held throughout 2021. And it also capitalizes on the many actions promoted by the Common Maritime Agenda and other partner initiatives in the Black Sea region. We hope that this conference will be a good moment to outline the state of play for CMA implementation. We would like to cover contributions of other relevant regional initiatives like SRIA, Black Sea Connect, the World Bank Blueing the Black Sea Initiative, and so on, and promote the exchanges of experience from other sea basins, like West Med, Atlantic, and so on. However, the core of our event will be the hackathons for project ideas. Please mute your microphones. It will be really helpful. So Black Sea stakeholders will be invited in our hackathons to discuss project concepts that have already emerged across the CMA goals and priorities, forward specific further development of these project ideas. We hope that with this conference will be instrumental in the identification of concrete actions to support the sustainable blue economy in the region. The outcomes of the conference will provide a valuable bottom-up inputs for CMA implementation of this year. I will stop here as I don't want to waste more of your time, and I will ask our distinguished guests for an introduction. So I will leave the floor to Mr. Yüksel Subutai, the Deputy Director General of from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Turkey, to welcome you all. And then I will ask Ms. Vilcheva Sarlina, Director General of DG Mare, for a key message from her side. So, Mr. Yüksel, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. On behalf of the 2021 Turkish coordination of the Common Maritime Agenda for the Black Sea, I would like to welcome all of you to this year's CMA Regional Stakeholders Conference. Distinguished participants and dear friends and colleagues, The aim of this event is to take stock of advancements in the implementation of the CMA across the Black Sea, as you may know. It fosters discussions with regional stakeholders in the areas for further action and concrete ways forward to ensure synergies across the various initiatives ongoing across the region. Our conference today benefits from the results of the previous edition of the conference in December 2022, and further regional events held throughout 2021. Today's conference underlines on many actions promoted by the CMA and other partner initiatives in the Black Sea region as well. Black Sea stakeholders will be invited to discuss project concepts that have already emerged across the CMA's goals and priorities in order to stimulate their further development. I believe that today's conference will be useful for the identification of concrete actions that support a resilient and sustainable endeavors for the blue economy in our region. I'm sure the outcomes of the conference will provide valuable contributions to CMA implementation for the year 2022 and beyond. As our coordination for the 2021 is nearing to its end, we are happy to be with you once again. This year of coordination, as it was the case for the last year, has been unfortunately handicapped by the COVID-19 conditions. We could not hold physical events with the exception of VTS training this year, which fortunately has begun nonetheless and hopefully will extend the future. So I salute with my best regards and I welcome you once again. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yüksel. And as said, I would like Ms. Arlina Viceva for a key message from her side from DG Mare.
Thank you very much, Chair, dear ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues. It is a great pleasure to join you today. Again, I regret that we are still in this virtual way, and I hope that the next meeting will be already face-to-face. Indeed, this is the second year of implementation of the Common Maritime Agenda, and the Turkish coordination has been leading the way with a very dense agenda and a forward-looking perspective, which Turkish coordination managed to implement steadily through concrete activities and real outcomes. And I would like to congratulate you, dear Turkish colleagues, but also the CMA countries for the resourceful commitment despite the obvious difficulties due to the current circumstances. Because thanks to this commitment and this ingenuity, I would say, going around the pandemic, today we can discuss some really concrete projects, which is the idea of this forum. For this, the contribution of all the participants is vital. It is vital because we need the recovery, and the recovery we want needs commitment and buy-in, not just at political level, but buy-in by all stakeholders of the Black Sea. And talking about recovery, like everybody else, the Black Sea region has suffered and is still suffering from the pandemic. At this particular juncture, we must let its blue economy recover, the Black Sea blue economy recover, but we do not want to leave anything to the chance, neither the economy, nor the people, nor the environment. We want a Black Sea region that is economically resilient, socially just, and environmentally sound. We want to put the blue economy in the direction of decarbonization, zero pollution, circularity, and biodiversity, with the help and enabling power of new technologies and digitalization. This is what also our new approach of the European Union and put by the Commission in a communication, new approach for a sustainable blue economy that has been put forward this year, and it is part of the European Green Deal and how it is applied to the maritime world. I hope that this new approach, and I'm sure that everybody around this table has read this communication of May this year, this new approach can be a real inspiration for the common maritime agenda for the Black Sea, because through the agenda, we can effectively help the countries along a path of sustainable recovery that builds better. That is why today's event is really important. I hope all stakeholders will contribute to discussing concrete projects during the hackathon sessions. Indeed, this is really the core business of this event. Your input doesn't stop, of course, at this event, but there can be a huge impetus. There are other instruments that are available to you for identification of projects intersessionally, and these are, for example, the Black Sea Virtual Knowledge Center and the assistance mechanism with its national hubs, just to recall. The Commission has financed them for you, and we will be very happy to see them well used. Implementing the agenda would be impossible without research and innovation. And I'm really pleased to notice that the cooperation with the Strategic Research and Innovation Agenda for the Black Sea has been reinforced progressively over the past year. So really very much commended also with regard to the Turkish coordination. 2022, it is the year of youth. You would recall that was announced a couple of weeks ago, and it is important that the CMA further, the Common Maritime Agenda further involves young generations, and that can happen very nicely via the ocean literacy priority and in cooperation with the Black Sea Young Ambassador Program that was recently launched. Finally, a word on the available funds and specifically the European Union funds. And I will take a minute to just remind and recall, also for you to take home and think about investment possibilities, the instruments through which we support the agenda and you can use in your projects further on. To begin with, we have the new European Maritime, Fisheries and Aquaculture Fund, but also the outgoing one, which is the European Maritime and Fisheries Fund, which is still operating. So recently we had a call for projects in the Black Sea that has been launched to support the blue economy entrepreneurship under the old fund. I recommend you to look into this opportunity very seriously. All the countries of the Common Maritime Agenda are eligible. So just look on our website, the launched call for projects. Then you also have the Neighborhood Development and International Cooperation Instrument, which we call now NDICI, with a budget of almost 80 billion for the next programming period. We kept our engagement with you and included many CMA projects within the Black Sea regional dimension of the 21-27 program of this instrument. So use this great opportunity of concerted effort on EU side. Then the next extremely important opportunity is Horizon Europe. This is the new research program 21-27 with a budget of over 86 billion, and it is open to all the associated countries, and this is the case for all CMA countries well covered. Another big opportunity to develop regional projects where we have cooperation embedded in the projects and also to build partnerships. comes with Interreg Next Black Sea program, which will be released next summer. So for the next year, we will have this instrument in hand, and we have to see how we can best use it. As from 2023, the new instrument of cohesion policy called Interregional Innovation Investments will contain calls that will be open to EU neighborhood countries and will promote interregional value chains in different sectors, including the blue economy, which is on top of our agenda. And probably one more, speaking of value chains, it is my pleasure to announce that DG Mare, my services, in cooperation with DG Regional Development of the Commission, will set up a thematic smart specialization platform for sustainable blue economy. This will be also open to neighborhood countries and thus can support the common maritime agenda. We will share more information on this in due course. Just know that the platform will support regional cooperation within the EU sea basins and further reinforce the cooperation with the research and innovation agenda. All this is to say that yes, the agenda will only work if all stakeholders and all sectors work on it together. But the European Commission is with you, committed to help every step of the way and contribute with the huge experience and investment opportunities. With this, I hand back the floor. And I would like to wish you a very, very fruitful meeting and lots of new ideas. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Viceva. Actually, you gave an overall a very good and excellent, I would say, overview of what's taking on in the Black Sea region. Thank you very much for that. Actually, during today's event, we will discuss on all aspects that you just mentioned. So I want to go directly to start with the first plenary session, taking stock of achievements and looking ahead towards projects supporting in the sustainable blue economy in the Black Sea. So I would like to ask Ms. Gombalova, who would moderate this, the head of the as head of division of Eastern Partnership and Regional Cooperation. Hi, Ms. Gombalova. This panel will mainly discuss on an overview of the achievements and actions promoted so far in the region. Ms. Gombalova, the floor is yours.
Thanks a lot, and I'm very pleased to be here with you today and to talk about the key achievements of the current maritime agenda, but also, as you said, looking ahead. I would like to thank a lot to organizers, but also my colleagues in the European Commission, and of course our colleagues from Turkey, the Turkish coordinator of the CMA, a very good friend of mine, for participating today. I understand that we have maximum 30 minutes, so I would probably go very quickly and just highlight that the Common Maritime Agenda is a pillar of the Black Sea Synergy, which is the key policy framework for our cooperation in the Black Sea. And indeed, we already see that the time has come after almost 2 years to look into the achievements of the Common Maritime Agenda and also to see how we could further reflect the new joint communication on the sustainable blue economy, but also to see lessons learned and to also reflect on what are the key takeaways for the future in the implementation of the Common Maritime Agenda. I would probably, without further ado, quickly introduce the 4 panelists, and then let's start with some questions. I would suggest that each of the panelists, given the time, has like 5 to 7 minutes to answer this question. I'm very pleased that I can welcome 4 distinguished speakers. Ambassador Lazar Comanescu, who is the newly appointed Secretary General of the Black Sea Economic Cooperation Organization. And then I will give the floor to my colleague from the Commission, from the DG, from Research and Development, Sylvia Nemeth. We have a last-minute change where a president of the Balkan and Black Sea Commission of the Conference of Peripheral Maritime Regions of Europe, Horia Teodescu, would need to be replaced by Mr. Mergeani, who is the Tulsea County Manager and member of the Balkan and Black Sea Commission. So he will speak on her behalf. And last but not least, Mr. Subutay Yüksel, head of department at the Turkish Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So let me give the floor immediately to Ambassador Comanescu. Mr. Ambassador, what are in your views the key challenges and opportunities for a resilient and sustainable blue economy in the Black Sea? Concretely, how do you think the regional cooperation can be further supported and can further contribute to drive the concrete policies and projects? Mr. Comanescu, floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator. Before trying to give you an answer to the question you raised, allow me to on behalf of the Black Sea Economic Cooperation Permanent Secretariat, PERMIS, to thank the Turkish coordinator of this Common Maritime Agenda, to thank also the European Commission and the Black Sea Assistance Mechanism for organizing this very important and timely conference, and for the kind invitation extended to us, to PERMIS, to participate in this audience. Being given such an opportunity, allow me also to point out that since the launching of the Common Maritime Agenda for the Black Sea in 2019, maritime issues of high relevance to the Black Sea countries have been raised on a regional level. We are proud that the BISIC organization has been actively involved in and brought its contribution to this process. So that being said, I'm come now directly to the question you raised. The BISIC organization has been here to support its member states and their desire for concrete and project-oriented actions for the benefit of the Black Sea countries. The Secretariat will spare no effort in this regard, and we are ready to assist in every possible way through the knowledge and experience that has been gained during the years in different sectors of cooperation. At the same time, BISIC has already taken some concrete project-oriented actions. Let me mention some of them. With the support of the European Commission,
I think we lost
before.
Sorry, Mr. Comanescu, we just lost you
Do you hear
for
me
a few
now?
seconds. Yes. Please go on.
My second example. PERMIS is an active part of the Black Sea Connect project that aimed at the aim of which is to support the Blue Growth Initiative for research and innovation in the Black Sea, towards implementing and promoting shared vision for a productive, healthy, resilient, and sustainable Black Sea by 2030. My third example. The basic premise was approved by the DG NEAR to receive a direct grant under the EU Regional Action Programme, with the aim to strengthen the project implementation capacity of the BISIC organization and its role as a facilitator of dialogue and cooperation in the region. Areas of work address within this project address transport, environment protection, and youth entrepreneurship. Fourth example, BISIC Permis is an active part of the Bridge BS project, which was launched in July 2021 and aimed to create a connected Black Sea community strengthened by a new generation of researchers and innovators to address emerging Black Sea challenges. Fifth, two projects which started on the 1st of October this year, where the Secretariat will be an active partner with when it comes to Black Sea case study as follows. It's the Arsinoe project, which commenced in October and will identify the solutions needed for successful transformation towards climate resilient future, and will develop and demonstrate systemic tools enabling regions and communities of variable scale across Europe to achieve the goal. And the West Coast project that aims to demonstrate to what extent upscale coastal restoration can provide a low carbon adaptation, reducing risks and providing gains in biodiversity for vulnerable coastal ecosystems, such as wetlands or seagrass beds. And finally, last but not least, I'd like to mention the role of the BISIC Permis as an implementing entity of the Blueing the Black Sea regional project aimed at tackling marine pollution and catalyzing the economy investments in the Black Sea region. So these were the few, let's say, examples I wanted to give in trying to answer to your question. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Ambassador, for your contribution. Let me now go to my next colleague, Mrs. Sylvia Nemeth, Deputy Head of Unit for Healthy Ocean and Seas from the DG RTD. Sylvia, in your view, what are the key achievements so far of the Common Maritime Agenda in the area of the Black Sea, and particularly in terms of research and innovation, which are aiming at supporting the transformation towards the sustainable blue economy and like what we always say, the double twin transition, taking into account the environmental aspects, fight against climate change, and of course the digital transformation. Sylvia, thanks, and floor is yours.
Good afternoon. Thanks a lot, Petra. Thank you also for the opportunity to be here today and to provide you with the perspective of research and innovation. So I would like to highlight some of the main achievements and give you also a bit of future perspective on what are the next steps we foresee, which are of relevance for you also mentioned, Petra, the twin transition, but in general for our common Black Sea work. So firstly, I would like to highlight that especially this year, a lot of work has been done both on the content and the process in relation to the strategic research and innovation agenda as the scientific pillar of the CMA. Concerning content, a priority setting of joint actions and activities is ongoing that will be included in the implementation plan of the strategic research and innovation agenda. This selection of priorities is based on the national prioritization of the outcomes of the different workshops that were conducted in 2020. So it nicely builds up in a process. Concerning process, I would also like to highlight that the ongoing work for forming the Black Sea operational network of funders, and this is under discussion, and the types of prioritized actions that could then be taken up in the implementation plan. And here I would immediately highlight the important links, regional links that we foresee with important Horizon Europe instruments, meaning the Sustainable Blue Economy Partnership, as well as the mission to restore our oceans and waters by 2030. I would also mention, of course, some of the ongoing work. So we have 3 joint actions that are followed up, one on marine plastics, one on the assessment of impacts of COVID-19, and for which the group of the countries define their own efforts on what is feasible to collect information and which specific research and innovation actions would be needed to be included in the implementation plan. The 3rd joint action on education and youth, here a lot of effort has been put in the young generation of scientists through the Black Sea Connect project. And this resulted in a number of successful achievements, events in the course of the year. I would maybe highlight the example of a very good video that was prepared for the virtual Early Ocean Professionals Days for the UN Ocean Decade, the Black Sea Time sessions with youth, the contribution to the International Black Sea Action Day on the 31st of October. So a number of ongoing things. And I think the importance of the Black Sea Young Ambassadors in general is to be praised. Apart from the ongoing project, Black Sea Connect, there are 2 more Horizon 2020 funded research and innovation projects that have started in this year. I'm speaking of the projects DOORS and Bridge Black Sea. Together, these 3 projects can also be seen as a cluster of Black Sea projects of 20 million euro in total, and they work closely together. So this cooperation was also illustrated and highlighted by the Black Sea Week that they are jointly organizing next year, or in the beginning of February. Last but not least, there is the cooperation with the national hubs of the CMA that needs to facilitate mutual awareness and exchange for both the strategic research and innovation agenda as the CMA developments and activities. Looking a bit in the future, I already mentioned the 2 very important instruments from the Horizon Europe framework program. But looking at a bit of a larger perspective, we also, of course, need to see the links between the work program, the ocean mission, and the partnership. And this is very relevant also from the perspective of the Black Sea. In the first year of Horizon Europe, in the Cluster 6 work program, we launched a core where Black Sea and Mediterranean participants were included and in the successfully evaluated call. So there is a project of 6 million euro on ecosystem services based socioeconomic empowerment of the users of the sea. This is something very important. For the second year, for 2022, the Cluster 6 calls have been opened on the 28th of October. You can look at the info days on which are available online with all the explanations about the opportunities there. The closing date for that year's call is the 15th of February. But I would also like to suggest to look at other clusters like Cluster 6 on digital industry and space, or Cluster 5 on climate, energy and mobility. There are several topics that are specifically related to marine and maritime research, and through a specific filter you can look at this. I already mentioned before that Black Sea Connectors and the Bridge BS are preparing the Black Sea Week, beginning of February 2022, including an innovation workshop. I would really encourage everyone to look at this. I already mentioned the mission, the Restore Our Oceans and Waters mission by 2030. This will be an important part of delivering on the European Green Deal by putting the blue into the green. As most of you know, this mission will roll out lighthouses in the different regional sea basins, and the Danube River Basin Lighthouse as important links for the Black Sea Basin on restoration and protection of water ecosystems and biodiversity. So I think this offers excellent opportunities for the future. I should also mention, I already mentioned the links with the Sustainable Blue Economy Partnership. And here we are foreseeing further support for a regional workshop on this before the summer of 2022. Stakeholders, including the CMA, will be involved in this workshop and its content building. Finally, of course, I would like to mention that we are following very importantly the association process, the association agreements to Horizon Europe with a number of Black Sea countries that have an important stake in this. So this was a bit the past and the future plans.
A lot, Sylvia, for your extensive outline of the opportunities and in the Black Sea. Let me now proceed to have a voice of the region, and I would like to invite Mr. Mergeani, the member of the Balkan and Black Sea Commission of the CPMR and president of the Tulsa County Council, who would and I would like to continue along the lines which we discussed now, and that we need to support. I would like to stress indeed that we need to. Yeah, I see that there is somebody. I hear somebody. Maybe mute him.
Could you please all mute yourselves?
Yeah, because I hear that there is somebody. Or maybe the host can mute the person. Yeah. So I would like to invite Mr. Mergeani, and what I would like to ask is how can the dynamics between and local levels be promoted, which has been the role of the regional organization as yours so far, and which how you see the future perspective of the reinforcing of the process. Mr. Mergeani, floor is yours.
Hello, dear host, distinguished panelists, Mr. Ambassador, dear participants. My name is Dumitru Mergeani. I'm a former vice president of Tulsa County Council, and now I'm a county manager. On behalf of the president of the Balkan and Black Sea Commission of the CPMR and Tulsa County Council President, Mr. Horia Teodorescu, I would like to thank you for the kind invitation to participate in today's high-level event, the 2021 Stakeholders Conference at the Common Maritime Agenda for the Black Sea, coordinated by the Republic of Turkey. For those that might not know us, the Conference of Peripheral Maritime Regions, CPMR, brings together some 150 regions from 24 EU and non-EU states, and represents about 200 million people, campaigning in favor of a more balanced development of the territory of Europe and operating both as a think tank and as a lobby for regions. We are structured in 6 geographical commissions corresponding to the main sea basins surrounding Europe and the islands, with the Balkan and Black Sea Commission, of which Mr. Teodorescu is president, being the Geographic Commission focused on our region. The CPMR policy work and projects focus mainly on social, economic, and territorial cohesion, maritime policies, and blue growth and accessibility. As an association, we are interlocutors of the European institution. We work closely with the European Commission, DG Mare, and the European Parliament by holding the Secretariat of the CIARICA Intergroup. And we are also glad to be B6 sectorial dialogue partner. Being the only association of regions with geographic focus on the wider Black Sea region, we are also honored to participate as observers in the steering group meetings of the Common Maritime Agenda for the Black Sea and the Black Sea Strategic Research and Innovation Agenda meetings, bringing in the regional authorities' perspective. Our role as regional authorities, members of the CPMR, is to further promote the dynamics and encourage cooperation with other stakeholders based on our territory, as we have been doing with our counterparts from the other sea basins of Europe. As we do in Tulcea County Council, the CPMR and its Balkan and Black Sea Commission are there to promote our interest at Black Sea regional and European levels, encourage and coordinate our cooperation with our counterparts and network of partners. As members of the CPMR, we work both having a top-down and mainly a bottom-up approach. That means, for example, that whenever CPMR members or the General Secretariat ask for our input and feedback, or gets back to us with updates on different policies and initiatives, we share it with research centers, local authorities, institutions, universities, CMEs, NGOs located in our territories as regions. We, therefore, engage ourselves and mobilize a wide range of stakeholders that are more aware of the opportunities for regional development offered in the framework of the Common Maritime Agenda, for instance. So we could agree that promoting the dynamics between regional and local levels, at least from the regional authorities part, depends a lot on our sharing information and coordinating with our services and partners at international, regional, national, and local levels. We are glad that the CPMR General Secretariat is always there for us, and that our Balkan and Black Sea Commission is present and represents us at the steering group meetings on the Common Maritime Agenda for the Black Sea, at the Black Sea SRAA meetings, and initiates or encourages cooperation with other key organizations in the wider Black Sea region, BSEC, ICBSS, BASMI, representing the states and the universities with which we have memoranda of understanding and cooperation agreement, and supports our participation in cooperation projects, or is our voice in cooperation projects, giving us access to results from which our regions could further benefit or replicate them in our territories. To strengthen this process, we need as regions to be actively engaged in common efforts, supported and coordinated by our associations, have the increased participation that helps our voice and interest to be better heard, and facilitate not only the dissemination of information, but also its flow, so that we benefit from the various opportunities to untap our region's great potential. Thank you very much for your attention.
a lot, Mr. Mergani, for your contributions from the local and regional level. It's very much appreciated. And I would like to now head to to our final speaker, Mr. Subutai Yüksel, head of department at the Turkish Foreign Ministry. Subutai, in fact, Turkey, as the main coordinator of the Common Maritime Agenda in 2021, has developed a very ambitious program and achieved very concrete results, on and also taking forward the work of the previous chairman, Bulgaria, and was also done in a very difficult and challenging context given the pandemic. I'd like to ask what are your takeaways from leading the implementation of the CMA, and how do you see that the priorities of Turkey, which promoted in 2021, will be taken forward in future? Subutai, floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Petra. It's a great pleasure under your moderation having such a session. As the Turkish coordination for the year 2021, we have tried to do our best, in fact, with the kind, constructive and eager participation of all CMA members and relevant international and regional institutions and mechanisms. We together held a number of events, produced some projects, and had CMA not only function, but also gain more content and orientation. These events were also reinforced by national level events held by the CMA members. The events of this year substantially reflected our priorities announced at the beginning of the year as they were refined and endorsed by the CMA members. We think that we have now a synergy and a concrete cooperation basis, for example, on the matters of blue entrepreneurship, maritime safety and coordination, and underwater culture heritage. It is up to us all to make them beneficial to all Black Sea region and enrich them with new projects and ideas. As a CMA member, Turkey shall cooperate with the upcoming Georgian coordination and contribute to the process to its best. You shall remember, all the participants, that the underwater cultural heritage was the theme of this year's first event. The presentations of Professor Özdaş, Professor Prahov, Professor Danilov, and Professor Karaivan provided a general framework for cooperation among the Black Sea countries on this matter. Consequently, the idea of establishing an informal working group to further the work on this theme emerged. We discussed this during the last two steering group meetings. Pending the final answer from our Georgian partners, we consented to begin preparations with the guidance of the assistance mechanisms for continuing this informal working group. Some CMA members have already declared their participants to this informal group. As you all know also, this informal working group is not an official mechanism, rather than it's a technical group in CMA sense. It is going to be an email group at the very beginning, which is intended to be a fertile ground for exchanging ideas in order to formulate cooperation projects that would be to the benefit of all CMA members. In this sense, it will cover scientific, economic, touristic, and other possible facets of the theme. Still, we think that it would be very useful and we would be very grateful if the academics that kindly made their presentations during the event did initiate the discussions in the working group. We think that the informal working group may best serve to the purpose of developing cooperation among the CMA members in its related field. On the other hand, the Stakeholders Conference is perhaps the most important event of this year. It is the stakeholders' participation which make all the CMA process concrete and beneficial. This gathering is in fact that of judges, beneficiaries, and contributors from a large spectrum. Should they judge the CMA perspectives valuable and workable, the CMA will live and flourish. Should they find the CMA environment and visions viable, profitable, and they decide to contribute to the process engagingly, the CMA will live and flourish. They were present during the relevant events throughout the year. They contribute to them, and in fact, they made them tangible and concrete, something that went beyond a framework, beyond a shell. Today, they are present and shall take the floor once again. And I'm sure they will have valuable contributions, enrich us, enhance our efforts, and make CMA process main aim real and workable. Efficiency assured by flexibility, and flexibility integrated within the consensus decision-making basis. Representing the Turkish coordination team of this year, I will not solely thank to the CMA members. The coordination is not and will not be presidency. The CMA members own the process in its entirety, make the events and projects together with their presence and contribution, share responsibility equally. They did so throughout this year and will continue to do so as long as CMA exists. The CMA is their property and they develop it together. But I will especially thank the stakeholders, the international organizations and mechanisms that were present and have contributed throughout the year, the entrepreneurs themselves, academics who were with us and continue to be with us, assuming responsibility and concreting their time to the CMA work. And I will thank the assistance mechanism. They have brilliantly conducted the work of coordinator, but also they have become brilliant partners to the CMA with their efficiency of work, common sense, and creativity. I wish wholeheartedly that they continue to work with CMA. They have indeed constituted the backbone of this initiative. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Subotai, for your intervention. And this brings me to the conclusion of our panel on key achievements towards a sustainable blue economy. And let me again thanks to all our panelists for their contributions and suggestions, as well as a very good overview on the different opportunities also for the future. And let me also allow me for a few concluding words. I think that today's panel very much demonstrated that the Common Maritime Agenda is up and running. We have a number of very concrete projects either already launched or in the pipeline, which gives us very good hope for the future, and also shows that if we all stakeholders, and as it was mentioned, entrepreneurs, youth, scientists, academics, but also regional cooperation or regional stakeholders, local stakeholders, if they all pull together the forces, we can get really concrete results. And this is one of the key benefits of the cooperation of the Black Sea under the Black Sea Synergy and two milestone agendas, that they reinforce each other. And it's thanks to the bottom up approach, they offer very concrete examples of cooperation. I would like to also highlight the strong need for involvement of the regional organization like BSEC, as we heard, who are extremely important in promoting the cooperation in the Black Sea. Of course, we also heard a lot from Sylvia on innovation and research, which remain the key enablers to achieve the sustainable blue economy, and to also address the twin transition. And I would also like to echo the importance of the different policies. They need to reinforce each other. We need to build up the links among them. And finally, finally, it's important. We also heard how important the local and regional level of cooperation is, thanks to our colleagues from Turkey, that it's really crucial to promote the dynamics of the regional cooperation and encourage cooperation among different stakeholders. And this brings me to the final word. Indeed, that the stakeholders and the cooperation among them is the key to bring the common maritime agenda and its goals further. It's very positive that we have a very busy agenda ahead of us, which was launched under Bulgarian, now put forward under the Turkish coordination, and we look forward to the next year. I would like to conclude this panel. Thanks a lot again for extremely fruitful, informative session, and looking forward to see you at the next occasion. Thanks a lot and goodbye.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gombalova, and thanks all the speakers that we had. Actually, you provided a very good overlook of the ongoing activities and, of course, the upcoming ones, which is really important. And now I would like to pass to plenary session 2 in order to hear experiences from other sea basins, sea basin strategies. And I would like to ask Mr. Economou, as Acting Director of Maritime Policy and Blue Economy of DG Mare, to moderate the speaker. Christos, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you very much, Tanos. Good afternoon to all participants to this stakeholder conference. I also would like to thank those participating to the first panel and particularly my colleague from the External Action Service for moderating it. I think after having heard, of course, the achievements, the state of play with the Common Maritime Agenda, and we have all contributed to that, and I'm very pleased to follow the discussion of the first panel. We would like also to bring the attention to the other sea basin strategies and also to bring together the experiences we have so far with them, and this is why I would like to welcome the panelists for this panel, which looks into this cross-fertilization that we may achieve across sea basins in Europe. First of all, we believe that now that we have this possibility to exchange experiences, we can also multiply the effects of what we try to achieve, promoting blue economy, promoting the sustainability in maritime affairs and in ocean preservation and looking into pollution. So these are all elements that are shared across sea basins. And I have to say that I'm very pleased to bring this discussion, and the colleagues who will participate to the panel are very knowledgeable in sharing this type of discussion. With the Turkish coordination of the Common Maritime Agenda in 2021, we had the opportunity to bring up this type of sharing of experiences from other sea basins, and I'm very pleased that this is happening because there is much that can be learned across the board. Now, what type of sharing of experience we can have? First of all, the way we bring together the stakeholders. Second, how we channel the national policies across the objectives of the strategies, the Common Maritime Agenda in this case. How we can promote more projects at national level in line with the objectives of the strategies, or how we can promote regional projects, as a matter of fact. So these are things that are shared among all the three basin strategies. Now, who do we have in our panel? I would really like to introduce them. First of all, we have from the WestMed initiative, the coordinator for maritime affairs and security in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Italy, Mr. Daniele Bosio, and who will tell us about the implementation of the WestMed and lessons that can be shared. We have from the Atlantic Maritime Strategy, the current chair and the responsible for maritime affairs in the Department of Foreign Affairs of Ireland, Dipna Kyoch. And also we have somebody from the future implementation for the Common Maritime Agenda. We have Mr. Lasha Inauri from the Ministry of Environmental Protection and Agriculture of Georgia. So I think I'm very pleased to have you all around me, because somehow I have, and I think all of us together, we have launched these activities, and it feels like for me gathered around the family, let's say, setting. I have to say the WestMed initiative came up also with my direct involvement, the same with the Common Maritime Agenda. And for the Atlantic Strategy, we have a new action plan since 2020. And that makes, as I say, feel I mean, I like to share this type of discussion with the honorable speaker. So without further delay, I would like to give the floor first to, I hope Mr. Bosio is there with us.
Yeah. Christos,
Yes?
it seems that
Okay.
Daniele is not with us yet, so let's proceed with Ms. Koch, and we are...
Okay. That's fine with me, because I could not see all the pictures and all the panelists on my screen, but I would be very pleased to start with Dipna. We just finished a very successful year of implementation, almost finished implementation of the Atlantic Strategy Action Plan. And I would like to ask you, Dipna, what type of experience we can share in the sense of the challenges and opportunities that they come through the Atlantic Action Plan. So how do we manage to engage stakeholders in the Atlantic Action Plan? How we manage to identify blue economy projects that promote the objectives of the strategy? And what are your inspirations of the future development of the action plan and the Atlantic Maritime Strategy? Let's try to keep short, because I know the first session went a bit out of the time agreed, but please, Dipna, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Christos. It's good to see you here again. And I would just like to thank the Turkish coordination team and CMA members for the invitation to be here again. I agree very strongly with Mr. Yüksel, what he said about the importance of the stakeholder event. And in Ireland, we had the Atlantic Strategy Platform Conference just recently on the 21st of October. And we were very fortunate in that it was a hybrid event, so we were able to have some people in Dublin in person and some participants online. Just by way of overview, the group is made up of the member states Ireland, France, Spain, and Portugal, and Ireland happens to be chairing the group for this year. We are also celebrating this year 10 years of the Atlantic Maritime Strategy. So the strategy was adopted back in 2011 in response to demands from the sector for increased communication and cooperation in the Atlantic area. And implementation was done via national submissions, regional authority submissions, and member state submissions also. So at the time, the strategy grouped together, challenges and opportunities facing the region
under 5 thematic headings. And it was in place until the action plan that underpinned it underwent a midterm review in 2017, which found that although the plan could be linked to over 1,200 new maritime projects and nearly €6 billion of investments, it also found that there remained potential in the plan to create even more impact. So stakeholder feedback was sought in 2018 by way of public consultation, member state workshops, and that has led to the revised action plan 2.0 that was adopted in July of 2020. And just to address specifically the question that we've been asked to address here today on engaging stakeholders in the blue economy projects and supporting the sea basin strategy, the Atlantic Action Plan 2.0 includes 4 interconnected pillars which address key challenges that one coastal region or one single state cannot solve alone. So the 4 pillars that exist are ports as gateways and hubs for the blue economy, that's pillar 1. Pillar 2 addresses blue skills of the future and ocean literacy. Pillar 3 examines marine renewable energy. And pillar 4, healthy ocean and resilient coasts. It has evolved such that representatives from the 4 member states have taken a lead on each of these pillars. And these pillars are being led by voluntary pillar coordinators who are doing the groundwork now to set the foundation for implementation of the action plan throughout its lifetime, and for the concepts being discussed now to become deliverable projects in the future. They have established task forces under each of these pillars, and through this network are working to implement, identify and deliver on the goals and actions of the action plans. And while the pillars focus attention on 4 broad headline areas, as implementation of the plan evolves and develops, continued consideration will be given to ways in which we can concentrate, focus, and specialize efforts in all the sectors of the maritime economy that need development and support. In terms of the pillar activities then, each pillar has a distinct target audience. Pillar 1's audience is primarily focused on gathering industry experience, industry stakeholders, and a split between kind of sharing experience and networking. Pillars 2 and 3, on the other hand, are heavily focused on the stakeholder engagement and network engagement. And pillar 4 is kind of evenly split among sharing and receiving knowledge of both the network and stakeholders. So the network and the stakeholders are absolutely key in delivery of the goals and actions of the action plan. In terms of activity, the pillar workshops, the pillars have instigated a number of workshops, and we have had over 500 participants go through these workshops in the last 12 months. They've had meetings of the task force, about 30 meetings, 20 meetings of the task forces throughout the last year. Our assistance mechanism publishes newsletters, which focuses on, the implementation of projects, project opportunities, the work of the pillars, and what the action plan is doing. We're also very heavily engaged on social media, and with a number of posts, like over 5,000 posts between the 4 national hubs from Ireland, Portugal, Spain, and France in the last year. And it has shown, results of surveys have shown that knowledge or interest, and people know more now about the existence of the Atlantic Strategy and what it does. In terms of further engagement, a few highlights, I suppose, in my view, would be to continue to develop the development of the network. Unfortunately, this virtual world in which we're operating now doesn't allow the physical engagement between stakeholders, but it's an essential part to the development of the network to support the action plan in the Atlantic. The engagement with youth, as Charlena Vicheva mentioned earlier on, 2022 is the year of youth. We in the Atlantic Strategy have engaged with our All Atlantic Ocean Youth Ambassadors Network and are fortunate enough to have welcomed 3 of the ambassadors to Dublin for our conference in October, a few weeks ago. Another bit of I think, which is a highlight, is to give projects a platform. An aspect we have explored is awarding the Atlantic Project Awards, which affords a platform for projects to publicize their project that are linked to the action plan as flagship projects of the Atlantic strategy. And this is a very popular aspect of the pillar engagement. And finally, in terms of funding, we engage with all available funding mechanisms. At the conference, we engaged with the Blue Invest Network, whereby project managers were given the opportunity to seek funding or to elicit support and advice from experts and investors for their projects. Also in the Atlantic strategy, national hubs support implementation by actively seeking out opportunities and advising pillar coordinators accordingly of funding sources, open calls, possible opportunities, collaborative opportunities, etc. Most of these have been mentioned by previous speakers. And I just noted as well from the Commission, I look forward to welcoming the Smart Specialisation Platform for the Sustainable Blue Economy, which is another welcome development. I'll leave it there, Christos. I think I hope this presentation has given an overview of the strategy, the action plan, and what we do. And again, thank you very much for the opportunity to have been here today.
Well, thank you very much, Deepna. It was also a pleasure to see you again. I think you shared very useful elements. And I believe our participants are looking towards the Atlantic strategy as one which has the most experience since we passed, as you said, to a second edition of the action plan after years of experience implementing the strategy. So I think all the elements you brought are very useful for those strategies, initiatives that are younger, like the Common Maritime Agenda. I like the fact that you highlighted the aspect of communication a lot. I think it's part of this exercise also having the stakeholders gathered in platforms like this. And also, I like very much that you brought up the element of youth that you also promote in the context of the Atlantic strategy. And I would like also to see it across board in all our sea basin strategies. Now, let's see if we have Daniele from Italy, or he still has problems. Thanos, any news?
He's still trying, but we will have him as soon as possible, I understand, from the technicians.
Okay.
So
okay.
maybe we move with Vlasa, and I will inform you. Yeah.
Yes, of course. It's not the choreography I had planned, because I would have liked Lasho to be able to react
at
on
the end,
what you will be hearing from the other representatives from the sea basin strategies. But nevertheless, I would like to give you the floor as the future coordinator for the Common Maritime Agenda in the Black Sea, to see also and to hear from you how you can perceive the development of the Common Maritime Agenda. Now we are running in the third coordinator, the third, let's say, implementation year. And also, how can you comment on what you heard probably from Deepna already, from the experience we have in the Atlantic, regarding stakeholders, regarding projects, and what is your vision from that you want to develop in this period of coordination by Georgia of the Common Maritime Agenda? The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Christos, I'm really glad to see you again, even though it's online, but still, unfortunately, due to this pandemic, we were not able to meet in person. Otherwise, I remember our previous meetings in Brussels, in Bulgaria, etc. So we had very in-depth discussions on many outstanding topics, but right now we all understand in what situation we are. So we have to somehow deal and cope with existing situation. And exchange overviews virtually. As you mentioned, it's my pleasure to participate in today's session as a future coordinator. As you know, in Georgia, we will have 2 coordinators because these tasks are divided into 2 different institutions. Environmental part is under the umbrella of our ministry, and I'm representing the Ministry of Environmental Protection and Agriculture. On the other hand, we have this maritime transport part, and it will be covered by the Ministry of Economy. And we will co-chair this co-coordinate, let's say so. And I'm confident that our coordination will be as successful as it was in case of Bulgaria and Turkey. Of course, what can we say about the implementation process? One thing is evident that time flies, and we have already 2nd year of the implementation of the CMA. Until that, we have a very long path until we agreed on the main priorities of the Common Maritime Agenda, and currently 2nd year is ongoing. And I would like to thank the Turkish coordination for this way that they proposed many, let's say, activities, dense agenda, steadily implemented through concrete activities and forward-looking perspectives, and also based on the achievements of the 2020 Bulgarian coordination. In 2022, the Common Maritime Agenda for the Black Sea will be in its 3rd year, as you mentioned, Christoph. The implementation of this, let's say, agenda, I hope, will be very fruitful, and at least I hope that we will manage to meet in person in Georgia, at least for some key events, if not for everything. We all understand that past 2 years have been challenging, not only for the difficulties embedded in all processes that are in their infancy, but also due to the fact that we could meet only online, and we could not go into the in-depth discussions regarding many important topics. So during the 3rd year of implementation of the CMA, we need to stabilize what we have achieved so far. We need to further develop the cooperation with the Black Sea Commission on Goal 1, on a healthy marine ecosystem, and see how the CMA can support the implementation of the Black Sea Regional Action Plan on marine litter and vice versa. In the same line, we need to develop synergies with initiatives already implemented on marine litter and marine environmental monitoring, such as EU projects, EU4M+, and in liaison with the World Bank program Blueing the Black Sea that will be launched in 2022. This is in conjunction with the activities implemented by the SRIA for the Black Sea as a joint action on marine litter. Marine litter is a priority for the Common Maritime Agenda, therefore we need to profit of this opportunity to further address this major environmental challenge of the Black Sea. We also need to further work on ocean literacy, reinforcing the ties with the EU4 ocean initiatives and with the Black Sea SRIA Young Ambassador program. And we need to advance on concrete synergies with international donors in regions to support the bankable projects. Above all, we need to continue on the path towards bankable projects, identification and definition by further involving stakeholders in this process. To this extent, I prize today's program the Turkish coordination has prepared and the discussions regarding this interesting session. In few words about the Georgia's plans as a coordination of the CMA, let me inform you that we already held some internal meetings because you understand that many stakeholders are engaged in this process. There are many ministries, 2 ministries at least, and many agencies and departments which are dealing on these matters, and we somehow brainstormed what can be done from our side. So everyone agrees that the priorities described in the Common Maritime Agenda, it is of course, high on the agenda for the ministries and for Georgia itself, and we are planning to do our best and put all our efforts in order to make these flagship projects real, and also to identify particular, let's say, meetings. Apart from the CMA steering group meetings, of course, we will have some important events such as a stakeholder meeting and other types of webinars or seminars. So we are working on it. What I can tell you that this marine litter is one of the important priorities for our ministry, and we might even be focused on more concrete activities related, maybe pollution by plastic and some other actions. So this process is under development, and of course we will share it with you. We very much rely on the European Union's, let's say, support in this process, and we will develop our program in a close cooperation with you. It is also our will to continue the good practice the Turkish coordination has initiated to involve the representatives from the West Med and Atlantic strategies to share their experience in the framework of CMA. I'm already very glad to hear some of the main directions from the Atlantic strategies coordinator. It's a pity that we had no chance to listen to our colleague from the West Med, but I hope that near future we will be also aware about this initiative and some particular activities. And of course, as Mr. Economou has highlighted, the 3 sea basin strategy shares a multi-level and blue economy multi-sectoral governance approach. The bottom-up involvement of the stakeholder for the identification of the national and regional projects. The challenges linked to the embedding blue economy in national policies and programs and those related funding and investment opportunities. Of course, we have a lot to learn from each other, and Georgia definitely supports the process of cross-fertilization across the sea basins. We will make the precious use of the experience shared by Mrs. Coe on Atlantic, and in future I hope that we will also will be able to get some experience from Mr. Bosio as well on engagement of stakeholders in sustainable blue economy projects, identification and development, and on funds and investments identification. Of course, another important issue and direction is engagement of the national hubs in the process. They are doing an important work, and we need to reinforce further the dynamics with the stakeholders and build them a network of actors that progressively understands the added value of the regional cooperation, and that at the same time understand and support the development of the blue economy policies and projects at national level. It could be interesting to consider having once per year a meeting among the coordinators of the 3 basins, and maybe a joint high level each 2 or 3 years. It could be also subject to our discussions if useful. So with this concrete proposal for the future, I would like to end my contribution and thank you one more time for the possibility to express our views as 2022 CMA coordinating country with this year. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Lasha. And I think it's very inspiring to hear that you have a good planning for next year. Let's hope that your wish for a meeting in person will be fulfilled, and that we will manage to have more dynamic exchanges with stakeholders, sometimes outside the meetings, because this is, I think, the way of bringing together people and networking to the best. And now I'm asking again, Thanos, if we
have Daniele.
Daniele, I see
we
him.
just
I
have
see
him. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Let's hope he can listen to us and interact. Daniele, good afternoon. I was pleased to see you, and I see that you're also wearing a beard now. You see, after some time that we have not met.
Yes.
Welcome. And I have to say that because we're waiting for you, I gave the floor also to the future coordinator for the Common Maritime Agenda, and he reacted already on some of the points that Dipna made on the Atlantic strategy, but we will be very pleased to hear from you. Also with your experience as co-chair of the West Med initiative for 2 years now, what type of lessons learned you would like to share with the countries in the under the Common Maritime Agenda? They try to promote the same objectives, and they have the same inspirations for developing a sustainable blue economy in the Black Sea. So what can you tell them, and what is your, let's say, vision of this type of maritime cooperation in sea basins? How would you like to explain this to those people that have probably less experience than the one you have in the West Med? So go ahead, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and I really apologize for these problems. It appears that I was isolated from everywhere. But yes, what we had as Italy 2 years of co-presidency of the WestMed. What we tried to develop and to focus on was to, on one side, to make the most from the priorities that were set together at the first. The WestMed initiative has 4 years of life. In the first 2 years, we managed to make the fixed and identify the joint priorities of the 10 countries. But then we had to put some meat on these priorities, and we tried to develop them. One of the tools that were used was to involve the research centers, the organizations, productive and industrial organizations, all those who could really put into concrete all these priority setting process that we had started. So the fact that the countries participating in WestMed have a different economic and social development did not prevent us to make people discuss among them. So we, for example, one of the achievements that is most promising in the WestMed, I think, is the creation of the WestMed Maritime Clusters Alliance, which is a way of creating and reinforcing the relations that already exist between the maritime industries, maritime research center in the 10 countries. These cluster alliance make possible to work on specific projects that have to be then put on the under the reference of the financing program of the European Union, and try to get the step to make the step forward into the concrete realization. Another aspect that we insisted on was the capitalization. So we tried to have and promote projects that could be replicated in other contexts. For example, when we set the technical group on green shipping, the 3 projects that came from the work that they have been doing for 2 years was exactly the idea of creating a network of Euro-Mediterranean ports that could facilitate the passage to green to a green shipping system. This network could be actually replicated not only in the ports that were participating to the project itself, but to the whole area of the WestMed initiative. So these are just few examples of what we tried to do. Of course, one of the elements of the success, let's say, if we can say so, of the WestMed initiative is that we have a very strong structure supporting the creation of these projects, joint projects. The assistance mechanism of the WestMed initiative is actually key in providing the structure of for those who actually make the projects, and to put them all together into a working community that makes all these things possible. And finally, if I can say, because I know that I have to be synthetic, the WestMed initiative, we should keep in mind that it has a very strong intergovernmental structure. It's not. Yes, we talk with the local authorities, our stakeholders, but basically the inspirations come from the dialogue that we set up among all participating states. So it's a very intergovernmental structure which has a top-down approach when setting the priorities, especially with the support of the European Commission and the UFM, Union for the Mediterranean Secretariat, but who benefits on the other side from the bottom-up approach that we encourage by stimulating the networks of stakeholders. The fact that we have a reference on the Secretariat of the European Union for the Mediterranean is also another asset of the WestMed initiative, because as we know, the WestMed is just a part of a system which is the Mediterranean. We stress that all the time because the WestMed initiative is open to other collaborations with partners and countries which are not exactly orbiting around the Western Mediterranean. It is part of the whole, and the approach has always been Mediterranean instead of just Western Mediterranean. So we have, to sum up, a very strong institutional setting, and we developed all those aspects that can make the societies of the participating countries talk together and bring the most of their relations and their experience and their history also for a common good in proposing all these projects. The leading argument that also drove us is that, especially I thank also the countries of the Southern Shore for that, because we focus on projects that are the closest possible to the people of the coastal communities. The projects that we are developing need to be less theoretical than possible, but they have to produce, they have to be income and job generating. We have to show that what we are doing is actually benefiting the coastal community. And a number of projects that have been developed during these 4 years, for example, in the sector of aquaculture, are aimed exactly at creating in the Southern Shore countries projects that are actually income generating, that can be replicated and can create some return in terms of income for the coastal community. The same goes for what we are projecting in the future, for example, in the coastal tourism sector. This is another aspect that is going to be developed, and that is again job and income producing. Same goes to the new ideas on skills development, the maritime blue skills development, and the so-called ocean literacy, because we realized that as far as there's no correct and full understanding of the potentialities of the blue economy for all our countries around the Mediterranean, we will always lack the inspiration to look at the Mediterranean Sea in general, at the sea as a source for producing wealth for the coastal communities. I can stop here, and I'm again apologize for being so abrupt in some things.
Well, Daniele, thank you. Thank you very much for managing to be in our company to this panel today, because I think you brought very important elements to it. Compared to the Atlantic strategy, of course, the West Med initiative has this interesting mix of EU and non-EU countries. I mean, we have the same setting in the Black Sea. You highlighted also the importance of having projects with impact to the local communities. I think this is also what we try to do in the Black Sea. And also you highlighted sectors that also in the Black Sea are very, very important, whether it's tourism or the ports, the connectivity and network there, but also the clustering. The clustering you mentioned from the beginning is very important for bringing the a network of stakeholders together. And I also like the way you also explained the top-down and the bottom-up approach. It's a mix. I mean, those strategies need both. And we have the same, I think, approach in all the three sea basin strategies we covered today. And I think it's a very good way to exchange among the three of you. We don't have time to give the floor back to Lasha, but I'm sure he took note of all the things you said. And also, please take note of his suggestion regarding probably a regular meeting between the three sea basin strategies, the way we do now, and maybe addressing particular topics which then can help us with this cross-fertilization, learning from each other, and also promoting the project ideas that have more global impact. This is, I think, we are in an interconnected world. It's very good to go down to the problems and sort out issues at the regional level, but the global picture, I think, is also where we see the impact of our work. So from the side of TIPNA, we also heard very good examples of how the work is organized in the Atlantic, and this can also be an inspiration for the other sea basins, including the Black Sea. I would definitely want to continue the discussion, but I'm afraid we need to stop because we are late with the program. I know there are the thematic hackathons to take over this more, let's say, intellectual exchange that we had among us, but I believe it is a very good way to close this part of the session. Thanks to all my panelists, Dipna, Lasha, Daniele, pleasure to see you all, and hope to see you all very soon in person. Back to you, Thanos.
Thank you, Christos. Thank you all. Very interesting to hear all these exchanges. And as you said, it's good to keep an eye on the experiences and how to share knowledge between the sea basins. Let's also, I would like to say here that we have also a comment in the Slido that cooperation in the Black Sea region is important both for administrative, business, and research structures, and it's important to enforce this in the future. So please use the Slido for the participants in order to have more exchanges, especially now that we will move to the hackathon sessions. And I would like to introduce Matteo Bocci from the Black Sea Assistance Mechanism to give us a short introduction to project hackathons and how this will work. And after Matteo, we will have a quick technical break, just 5 minutes, so everybody to move to the room, to the respective hackathon. So Matteo, the floor is yours, please.
Yes, thank you, Thanos, and thank you all. I will go super brief because we really want to discuss, and this is just a frame for letting everybody understand what the hackathon will be. This is also discussion and a methodology that has been tested in other basin, notably the Western Mediterranean, as Daniele was mentioning. So just for everybody to be aware, what is the hackathon, and why we use hackathon. The term started quite some years ago in the application software development really frame, but it quickly became something more broader, where it started as a hacker marathon, in fact, but basically now it's really used as a way to bring together stakeholder and discuss concrete project ideas. The idea is that hackathon really helps to move from the early discovery, early basic concept to ideation, so definition of more specific features on idea, creation of partnership and submission. So hackathon might cover each and all of these phases. I would say today we stand at the kind of early stage of this development. We have circulated some concept note to all the participants that were available in the website of the CMA assistance mechanism and the Black Sea initiative, but also circulated and sent. These concept notes, they have a general context, they have an aim, few activities, and served as basis for discussion. We invited some selected panelists to discuss it, but as Thanos is saying, you can and you please use the Slido tool for discussion. We will describe more clearly once we move to after the break, we move to the session. We will describe more clearly how the Slido works, and we support exchanges. There are moderators. Moderators are picked as key relevant organization in the regions. So Black Sea Commission, ICBSS, International Center for Black Sea Studies, and the Black Sea Connect, sorry. And we basically structure 3 groups of hackathon, 1 per goal. So the goal 1 is healthy marine and coastal ecosystem. We will have 2 projects to be discussed. Goal 2, competitive, innovative, and sustainable economy, another 2 projects. And last but not least, sustainable investment, the final 2 projects. The way we selected this project, I'm not entering details, of course, but we went through systematically all the input and exchange we had since the approval of the Common Maritime Agenda and the early meetings that we have quite a few years ago. We bring together really ideas and we convey this overall message. These are the main topic. We look at networking, protected maritime areas, and high-tech for monitoring. In the Goal 1 hackathon, we look at green ports and sustainable tourism in the Goal 2 hackathon, and we look at business hubs, accelerator, and maritime cluster in the Goal 3 hackathon. I understand we all will be automatically redirected after the break to the hackathon that we've selected. There will be moderators and panelists, and we as Black Sea Assistance Mechanism will support. So I give you back to you, Thanos, and thanks.
Please, I would like to ask all participants to keep connected because like that it will be quicker for us to make this transfer to the hackathon room. So let's go for a 5-minute technical break and we see you all in your selected hackathon rooms. And I would like to move to plenary session 3, where I would like to give the floor to Mr. Nicholas Kentrovich, from the Deputy Head of Unit for Georgia and Moldovan Economic Investment Plan from DG NEAR, regarding financing project opportunities for Common Maritime Agenda implementation. So, Nicholas, the floor is yours.
Thanks very much, Thanos. Can you all hear me? Just checking technical. Good. Yes, as Stanos said, I'm the deputy head of unit for the excitingly named Unit C1 in DG NEA, which deals with the economic investment plan, but it also deals with connectivity questions. So we have an interest in the Common Maritime Agenda for the Black Sea. Welcome to this third plenary session of today's conference, where we will discuss the financing opportunities for successful and timely implementation of that Common Maritime Agenda. Delivering the ambitious agenda of the CMA requires that all regional stakeholders work together to ensure synergies between the different initiatives across the region. And I think we've heard quite a lot of these initiatives so far today. In the hackathons for project ideas, we have already discussed the project concepts that have emerged to implement the CMA's goals and priorities. And in the next step, we should try to identify concrete actions which the implementation of which will support a resilient and sustainable blue economy. Therefore, I would suggest that we now build on these ideas and bring into the discussion our partners in the development banks and international and European financial institutions. Currently, we have a number of development banks that conduct considerable operations across the Black Sea. For example, the blue economy is supported by the European Investment Bank, the EBRD, the Black Sea Trade and Development Bank, and there are others involved in this. The alignment of different financing and investment opportunities at EU, national and international levels is what is going to deliver sound implementation of the Common Maritime Agenda. We have already mobilized a wide range of public and private resources to support the blue economy. And therefore, today's event is a good opportunity for us to see how we can further strengthen and operationalize the synergies between the different financial opportunities. So to kick off this, this plenary session, I would like first to give the floor to Laura Barbarnik from Interreg, because I know that she has a busy schedule. Just to introduce, to say that with the new multi-annual financial framework, which is what we call the budget of the EU, comes new opportunities. So such opportunities include the numerous programs for EU member states and partner countries under the cohesion policy, the neighborhood development and international cooperation instrument, the difficult to pronounce NDICI instrument, that is, Horizon Europe and others. And one of these programs is the Interreg Next Black Sea for 2021 to 2027. To tell us more about these areas that will be targeted by this program and to support the development of sustainable blue economy projects in the Black Sea, therefore I'm passing the floor to Laura Bobarnat, Interreg CBC program head of unit and the managing authority for the Black Sea Basin Joint Operational Program 2014 and 2020. Have I got all your titles right there, Laura? There seem to be quite a lot of them. Over to you.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak during this very important event. Also, thank you very much for letting me intervene the first. Indeed, there are also other tasks that I have to tackle after this meeting. Let me extend my greetings to all the participants, our traditional partners, in implementation of the current program and for the programming of the next program for 2021 to 2027. First of all, please let me remind everybody that the EU legal framework for the future Interreg programs foresees mechanisms that ensure the creation of synergies between the different programs and initiatives performing in the same territory. In case a transnational program covers the same geographical area as a macro-regional or sea basin strategy, at least 80% of the EU financing should be programmed on the objectives of that strategy. Therefore, as far as the future Interreg Next Black Sea Basin program is concerned, we prefer to believe that we concentrated all our efforts in order for 100% of the funds to be fully aligned with the objectives of the Common Maritime Agenda. Also, the blue economy is the catalyst element of all the activities which are going to be financed under this program. The blue economy in the Black Sea basin is strongly dependent, as we know all, on the established maritime sectors such as transport, shipbuilding, fisheries, aquaculture, and tourism. These sectors continue to grow, but still need to be modernized through digitalization and research and innovation. Transitioning to a sustainable blue and green economy requires investing in research and innovative technologies. The stakeholders in the Black Sea Basin region should innovate mainly locally in order to use the maritime space effectively for all economic activities and to protect the marine life and environment. Increasing the research and innovation capabilities and digitalization may lead to a high level of competitiveness and entrepreneurship spirit of the small and medium-sized enterprises, sustainable tourism and aquaculture, as called for in the Common Maritime Agenda. On the other hand, innovative technologies such as big data or artificial intelligence are likely to transform the blue economy in the immediate future. New technologies can enable traditional sectors such as shipping or fisheries or tourism to improve their sustainability and circularity. Through innovation, coastal communities can rebuild or reshape their economies and become local drivers of sustainability. Therefore, the next Interreg Black Sea Basin program will finance technological progress in order to efficiently manage the shift towards a smart blue economy. The first priority of the next program is called Blue and Smart Region. And under this priority, the program will finance activities related to the use of innovative technological developments, including enhancement and application of artificial intelligence technologies in support of the blue economy, activities for the development of research on integrated coastal and marine management, also interaction between land-based and sea-based activities and their impact on coastal zones, and activities related to the use of innovative technologies for sustainable fisheries and eco-friendly aquaculture. Secondly, we cannot speak about sustainable blue economy without considering the protection and sustainability of the marine ecosystems, without underlying the importance of promoting further research, providing new knowledge to mitigate the impact of global climate change, encouraging joint projects among protected areas, and also valorization of biodiversity and natural heritage. Biodiversity conservation and protection should be considered as the main principle of maritime economic activity. Marine biodiversity is not only the prerequisite for economic activities like fisheries and tourism, and biodiversity and conservation and restoration are also very important for economic opportunities. Reducing the impact of human activities on the sea is a collective responsibility. The blue economy can play a vital role in many aspects of the work to combat pollution and can benefit from new opportunities arising from that work. As concerns climate change adaptation and disaster risk prevention, which is the first objective of the second priority, which is called Clean and Green Region, the program will finance activities related to innovation for improved tools for smart observing, monitoring, and environmental forecasting, activities for prevention and mitigation of the impact of the climate change, activities dedicated to addressing environmental hazards, creation of mechanisms of monitoring and early warning for natural or man-made disasters, and also actions for green recovery. All these actions will, of course, contribute to the objectives of the Common Maritime Agenda, which support the protection and sustainability of the marine ecosystems by actions such as promoting further research, providing new knowledge to mitigate the impacts of climate change, encouraging joint actions amongst the stakeholders of the protected areas, and also research and valorization of biodiversity and natural heritage. Also, the Common Maritime Agenda encourages the production, management, and sharing of marine and coastal environmental knowledge for effective environmental monitoring by actions such as encouraging science-based policy-making process and marine data collection and sharing through existing databases. The second objectives under the Clean and Green region is related to the protection of preservation of nature biodiversity, and the program will finance projects in the field of protection and promotion of biodiversity and natural heritage. Also, actions for environmental protection promotion at all educational levels, actions with small-scale investments component in green infrastructure in order to mitigate the pollution, air pollution, water, soil pollution, and also actions for pollutants reductions, collecting, and recycling. All the proposed fields of actions contribute to the goals of the Common Maritime Agenda, which supports reducing marine litter production and marine pollution by actions such as raising awareness among public authorities and citizens on marine environmental issues and the impact of human activities on marine ecosystems, encouraging joint projects on marine environmental protection at all educational levels, and on the prevention and response to pollution caused by ships and ports, education on marine ecosystems, promoting the practice of marine litter harvesting and recycling, supporting research on the challenges related to eutrophication, invasive species, emerging pollutants, and litter. Currently, the draft Interreg Black Sea Basin program is published on the program website. Soon we hope to launch the third round of public consultations on the third and we hope so last version of the program. So I encourage all the stakeholders to follow our website and to support us with suggestions that may lead to the improvement of the program, which will be submitted hopefully in the first part of next year to the European Commission for approval. Perhaps it works to be said that there will be two types of projects financed under the next program, regular projects with a small-scale infrastructure component, but also as a novelty, we will have small-scale projects for mainly addressed to newcomers, but not only, which will have a lower value, perhaps up to 500,000 euro. I hope that everybody will find this information useful, and I reiterate the invitation to follow our website and to contribute depending on your competencies. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much for that, Laura. There really was an awful lot of information there, and I would strongly encourage people to look at the website to find out more. I really appreciated what you said about the synergies between the different activities, but I think most importantly, how the program can ensure that there is the proper compatibility between human activities and preserving the environment in this region. Okay, we are now, if you don't mind, I'm going to give the floor to my colleague from the DG Commission, from the Commission in DG Mare, Klaus Schulze, who's going to tell us more about the key challenges and possible ways to foster blue investment across the Black Sea.
Thank you, Nicholas. Can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely.
Very good. So yeah, I mean, I guess I'd share my screen quickly so you see what I have prepared for you. Let me see how I do this. Voila. Do you see my screen now? Very good.
Your calendar, yes.
Super. The calendar. Do you see the presentation now?
Yes.
As well. Brilliant. Very
not
good.
in full screen, Klaus.
How do you want me to do it?
Up to you.
Thanos? Not in full screen?
It's better for you, I guess, no?
It's good for me, yeah, full screen.
Yeah.
I mean, if as long as the participants can see it, can you see it there? Thanos, is that good for you?
It's fine for me, but I don't know for the rest. For me, it's fine.
Fine?
It's okay. It's okay.
Very good. Then let's quickly start. We don't have that much time. I don't want to keep you too long. Thanks for having me. So I'm going to share a bit of experience from the platform that we've built, the investment platform that we've built during the past 3 years, as well as a study we did back in 2018 on the investment landscape in the blue economy. And I tell you how we are going to go forward. And also, of course, because this is all related to our sea basins as well, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what our experience was with regard to particularly participation of Black Sea stakeholders in this. Right. So let me see. Let me go back here just to the start. Yes. So back in 2018, we said we're going to look at a couple of blue economy markets, subsectors, and look at their investment dynamics. So this is emerging as well as established sectors, and we wanted to find out what the situation is with regard to the bringing innovations to market, because we understood from conversations we've had that there is a problem, there's a gap. And what the study found out was that particularly, while for big industry, it's not such a problem for kind of established large companies. SMEs is where the innovation in the blue economy is going to come from. They are the most mobile, but they face constraints in terms of obtaining finance, in terms of investment readiness, in terms of basically a market that is not ready for taking up their ideas, right? So what we found out is that the majority of investors, and we did a lot of interviews with investors as well as of course, market experts in different subsectors of the blue economy and SMEs. The majority of investors investing in blue firms do not specifically target the blue economy, but it's just for them, it's just a segment to diversify their portfolio, to add a little bit of impact, sustainability and impact at some point, and they see a high risk in that sector because they don't understand it. On the other hand, SMEs, they face limited access to private funding. There's a funding gap that's identified as about 60 to 70 billion euros. So it's significant public funding is available in form of grants, because we think about grants, but it's not grants. Grants are not the problem. Grants are available. It's more the ecosystem is not there. There's no dedicated financial instruments for investors. It's not a major focus. So what we got as a recommendation is for overcoming the funding gap is to create a platform as well as a dedicated financing instrument that gathers funds from public and private resources. So that was in 2018. We got to work. We started what we call the Blue Invest platform, and that is on the one hand, it's a technical assistance instrument that provides coaching, targeted, customized investment readiness training, support for access to finance, as well as visibility and matchmaking with investors. It does a lot of work, outreach to investors, to help build understanding for the blue economy and create a financial ecosystem. And we also started to work on financial engineering using our own funds, but also using other EU funds such as support from the Juncker Fund. And generally, this was also about promoting, the innovation opportunities in the sustainable economy and the EU Green Deal. We were looking at sea basins as well, and we had, while we've originally had only foreseen to be present at major industry events, because this is where the investors go, we soon found out there's an issue in some of the sea basins where we have less traction. So we started to organize regional events. We started to be present. My presence today in this Black Sea event is also part of our outreach to highlight what we can offer, the different services which you can see on the slide. And so we were quite beefing that up, and we went to several events also at the Black Sea. We had an outreach to Black Sea stakeholders. What we found out at the end of the day is that interest that we get from Black Sea SMEs is very limited. For instance, in our whole investment readiness scheme, where we train 200 SMEs in 3 years, and we are now at, I think it's 154, and by the end of April next year we'll have 200. We have only 2 SMEs from the Black Sea. Those 2 are very interesting. One is from Bulgaria, the other from Romania. It's about retrofitting solutions for vessels. It's about turning waste plastic to hydrogen. But there is not so much innovation coming from the region. There is a lack of entrepreneurial fabric that can so that these companies can be part of our project pipeline. So that's something that we found that's not really there. And we have I mean, if you look at the other countries, the top 3 countries for beneficiaries from our Blue Invest initiative are Spain, France, and the Netherlands. Of course, this doesn't come as a surprise, but our task is to build an investment system. Our task is to work with companies that we can, help get over the edge, to introduce their products into the market, to scale up. We are not a regional technical assistant instrument, but of course we are, ready to support that effort and also look at how we can be more present, particularly in those areas where we don't have that much traction. Let me see. These are the different features. I don't have the time to go through all of them. Most important is the readiness assistance that we provide, and the project pipeline, and the kind of targeted matchmaking. And I'll tell you a little bit about what we found out about these services, because this was now 3 years of pilot phase. We're now going on for another 4 years, and should be interesting for you that I share that with you. What we have achieved in those 3 years is we mobilized and enabled a huge community of SME startups, business coaches, and stakeholders. And as I said, it's not a problem to mobilize stakeholders in the Black Sea, but what we don't get is the SMEs and the startups. We have a number of business coaches from the region, because it's important that we bring these coaches together with the SMEs. They meet even through COVID. I mean, there's one physical meeting, but mostly was, of course, online. But they immerse themselves in the company, and they give them a dedicated coaching a package. What we achieved was we really have now got quite a bit of traction in the market. We are a recognized kind of platform, and there is more and more interest for blue tech and for blue economy innovation from the investor side. We have, and I come to that in a minute, started to establish a dedicated financial ecosystem for the sustainable blue economy, basically addressing that market, that financing gap that we see that there is. And we were quite successful in kind of promoting the opportunities and innovations linked to the EU Green Deal. I'm not going into details here. You can see on the slides. These are our KPIs, or some of our KPIs. That's a track record that we have now after basically 3 years of a pilot initiative. And what was very valued from our companies was that access to finance, investment readiness and bankability, market readiness, product and innovation. These are all coaching and training elements that were highly rated by our companies. We're going to introduce a stronger a stronger element of sustainability here. Now with the Green Deal, that's of course important, and our investors are also very much interested in that kind of impact part, sustainability impact. What was really the key to being successful here in the market with our initiative is that we are credible and that we introduce companies and we prepare both sides, the investor side as well as the SME side. If you have ever been involved in one of our events, you'll find out this is about you know, getting the right type of investor and the right type of company together, giving pitches to investors and then helping with the deal making. Of those companies that we have brought together, that we have coached, of the now 150, 24 already signed a deal with third-party investors. So we're not talking about public funding here, we're talking about private funding. And what was also an interesting finding, I don't know whether that's also the case for the Black Sea, but that what we heard from a lot of SMEs and investors is that in general, EU-funded business support mechanisms are not visible enough to businesses and to investor community. So whenever we often ask to, you know, also present not only what's possible in the Blue Invest, but what's there out there in terms of support, different support mechanisms, whether it's on intellectual property or on research. So different EU programs. So this is normally a job that the Enterprise Network Europe should do or does, but we found that still there is a bit of a lack of awareness of the different instruments that there are. Now, let me, finalizing my presentation, I'd like to come to one of the most important aspects of this platform. As I said, I mean, coaching SMEs, we're going to continue this in the next 2 plus 2 years, because it's been very successful and there is a high demand, and we see that, you know, the companies grow with us and we can prepare them to get investment from this group of investors, this club of investors that we have. We're now at 250 investors that have signed up to us, that work with us. And what we have also done is we have worked together with the European Investment Bank, European Investment Fund. We've put together again a pilot fund. It's called the Blue Invest Fund, which is which was launched in 2020 and which has committed now, here it says 75 million. We went over target. We committed 105 million public money into venture capital fund that so basically we're helping them. We're taking out the risk. They bring their own capital on top. So for the first time, we really create a market here. These investors, these venture capital fund, they will now look at our project pipeline. They will look at other projects, and they will fund now innovation projects and companies, blue tech companies, with that money from this year basically onwards until 2026. So this is we're going to mobilize here up to 300 million, but that's only a start. Because as you've heard, I mean, the investment gap is quite high. So what we do as a second step is we are building on this pilot fund. We are now going to blend our maritime. We're going to go away from giving grants, because we understand that doesn't really, the few EU money that we can give from our maritime fund, we don't have any leverage in the market. So what we need to do with this money, we need to help and create a dedicated ecosystem with that. We need to use it to leverage and to attract private funding. So what we're going to do now is we're going to use our funds. It's a relatively modest amount of 20 million EMFF that we used to use for grants, and this is going to be matched by the EIF and by InvestEU. So we're going to go with about 100 million public funds into the private market. We're creating a financing instrument here, a thematic financing instrument for the sustainable blue economy, and this is going to leverage. And now you're going to be surprised, according to the calculations we had from our banking experts, we're going to leverage in the period 2021 to 2027, and of course, depending on the market uptake, up to 2.7 billion of risk finance will be offered to the market. So you see the power of leveraging public funds and getting investors signed up and getting them interested. And of course, you need the pipeline, you need the projects there, because this money can only be invested if we find the right projects, the bankable projects, the SMEs, the teams that are ready to absorb that money. And so this is what Blue Invest is all about. So it's a two-pronged initiative. It does these two things. And looking at the Black Sea, this is only open now the point is our investment readiness support at the moment is only focusing on EU. I'm finishing now on EU countries. Third countries are available for our project pipeline. So because we use EMFF, but the financing aspect, the financing party, the Blue Invest fund, for instance, can not only invest in EU countries. This is also interesting for third countries around sea basins, for companies located there, because there's more flexibility in here.
All right, thanks for that, Klaus. I hate having to cut people off, particularly when they're talking about such a worthy and important initiative.
Anyway, thanks.
Yeah. So I would also encourage you to get in touch with the Blue Invest platform, as you said, to receive all the necessary support to promote your product in the market and benefit from the market opportunities and targeted matchmaking. I mean, I actually, what you said, Klaus, is what we hear all the time when we're trying to support SMEs, that SMEs are where the innovation happens, but they have a lot more difficulty accessing finance and accessing the expertise, and your platform is going to help people to do that. So now it seems like a good moment to look more into how we can transform the project ideas aimed at supporting the Common Maritime Agenda implementation into the bankable projects. And to answer to this question, I would like to give the floor to two colleagues in the European financial institutions, IFIs, or international development banks. And the first on my list is Rieko Kubota, Senior Environmental Engineer from the World Bank. Please, Rieko.
Thank you so much, Nicholas, for the kind introduction. And I would like to really extend the appreciation on behalf of the World Bank to invite us to this very important CMA stakeholders meeting of 2021. And we are very happy to be part of this discussion and as part of that League of Stakeholders for implementation of a Common Maritime Agenda. So today, the questions addressed to me actually is to answer, so how can we make the project more bankable? And as a bank, and also we've been talking quite a lot with the other commercial banks, regional banks, and venture capitals, angel investors, and so on and forth, who has the money to invest. And I'm glad that I'm intervening after Klaus, because he has made a very important point, saying that there are money and there are investors who are available to invest. And they are very much keen in the agenda of the blue economy and also the issues of the Black Sea region as well. But it's just that they just don't identify that bankable projects or bankable institutions and the private companies yet. So after having all these discussions, and also we have conducted some assessment how we can improve that investment readiness as a bank, that I personally come up with the 3C as a takeaway, how we can make that projects bankable. So first C is a competitiveness. We need to really build the competitiveness of the private sectors and especially the SMEs to really be able to present their project ideas in more competitive manner. And second C is a confidence. We often see and talk with the private sectors and SMEs, but we still do not find that they have the confidence being able to have the bankable to have the investment ready from the commercial banks and so on. So we really want to build the confidence of the private sectors and SMEs in being able to carry out their projects and also to to test their innovations and technologies that they have. And the third C that I would like to address is to gain more credibility. So usually the SMEs do not have enough credentials from the eyes of the commercial banks. And this is because that they do not have a track records of having that investment or having the project implementation in the region. So as a World Bank, that we would also want to provide the opportunity to the SMEs to gain more credibility through having the project implemented under our Eco-Innovation Challenge that I'm going to present from now on. So World Bank has been preparing and designing the projects called Blueing the Black Sea program, which many of you may know very well, under the support of the Global Environmental Facility. And we are going to organize the program called Eco-Innovation Challenge, which will be providing the support to the SMEs, especially the startups and entrepreneurs from the Black Sea member states. And this project is not just about the improvement of the investment readiness, but we'll be working very strongly with the government stakeholders who will be in charge of the policy formulation to also build the key enablers from the policymaker side to enhance the investment readiness of the private sectors and also to have more understanding about the pollution issues in the Black Sea region. So please allow me to share the screen, if I may, to share with you just one slide from my end. Okay, sorry. Could you see my screen? Okay, thank you very much. So under this Eco-Innovation Challenge, we have two objectives that we would like to achieve. Because we want to see the impact of introducing an innovation in the Black Sea region. So we want to really have that innovation that can remove and reduce the organic pollutants that goes into the Black Sea. So namely total phosphorus and total nitrogen, which is usually the cause of eutrophication in the Black Sea. So we want to block that. We want to reduce that pollutant loads that goes into the Black Sea water. So that's the first objective. And the second objective is to support the local business ecosystem by strengthening the eco-business, which I think many of the stakeholders are already doing, and we have been discussing so much in this meeting today. But by having the opportunity to provide the grant and also providing the matching platform through this Eco-Innovation Challenge, we want to also support that business ecosystem as well. And under this Eco-Innovation Challenge, we have two windows. And the first window is what we call regional window. In this regional window, we would be accepting the proposal, which is still at the early stage concept or idea and early stage technologies business model, which hasn't had a tracking records of being tested or applied in any of the context in the Black Sea region. And we want to invite that entities, the legal entities like the private sector, startups, entrepreneurs, non-governmental organization, and community organization, academic institutions, youth groups, and women's group. We, of course, want to stress that importance of including the women inclusive enterprises to be encouraged to apply for our program as well, because we are also quite concerned about the gender equality of in terms of the opportunity in this type of innovation challenge as well. And eligible nationalities of all these legal entities who can participate in this Eco-Innovation Challenge will be the entities from the Black Sea member states. And the awards that we provide is a week-long study trip to Turkey, which provides the opportunity for matchmaking and also being able to interact with the regional startups and entrepreneurs and innovators who has the same aspiration to solve that water pollution issue in the Black Sea. And we also provide the opportunity to participate in the acceleration program, which can also contribute to build the investment readiness of the innovators from the region. And the second window that we'd like to also highlight is what we call national window. And for this national window, we'll be only accepting the proposal for Georgia, Moldova, Turkey, and Ukraine. And eligible innovations under this national window, we would only accept the proposal which already shows the proven concept, proven technology, and proven business model, which can contribute to the reduction and removal of those organic pollutants in the Black Sea. So any companies or any academic institutions which already has a proven concept or technologies in reducing and removing the organic pollutants are eligible to apply, and those entities can come from any of the Black Sea member states as well. And what's quite interesting and unique about this Eco Innovation Challenge is that we would nominate the host of innovations in those 4 countries already. So before this Eco Innovation Challenge event will take place, we have the focal points in each country, just like the Common Maritime Agenda has a focal points. We have already been starting to ask the focal points in each country to nominate those host of innovations, which could be industrial entities, which could be municipalities or communities or farmers cooperatives and so on, which has a struggle to tackle and resolve those water pollution issues. So we would like to invite the host of innovations to prepare the program statement, what kind of problems they want to solve and how they want to really remove and reduce those organic pollutants. And together with the call for proposal, which will be posted at the BSEC organization website and also at the Virtual Knowledge Center, that those problem statements will be published and also be able to matchmake with those innovators who already has those proven concepts and technologies. And the innovators who will be winning those national windows will be receiving up to $500,000 per country. And we are envisioning to invite 2 to 3 grants in each country to pilot and test those innovations at the premise of host of innovations. And this pilot period will be about 1 year so that it can make impact by introducing their innovations and ideas. And throughout this 1 year period, we'll be supporting the innovators to participate in the acceleration program and also provide the mentoring opportunities. So having that possibility opportunities to implement those pilot projects in those 4 countries, we would like to give opportunities to the innovators and as well as the host of innovations, who could be municipalities or industrial premises and so on, to really gain this competitiveness and also the confidence and credibility to be able to apply for further investment opportunities, which are already available in EU and internationally as well, so that they can further scale up their business and also to replicate the successful cases which could be originated from the Black Sea region. As a final remark, I really would like to appreciate that the chairperson of the meeting and also the organizer from Turkey, and also to congratulate EU for having a successful partnership with the Black Sea region and Common Maritime Agenda. And especially, I would like to extend my sincere appreciation to the BSEC organization, which has been a really tremendous partner to our project design and the preparation. And we really hope to work much more closely with the BSEC organization and also the other stakeholders to have a successful implementation of this Eco Innovation Challenge and also to have the opportunity to scale up together. Thank you very much, and back to you, Nicholas.
Thanks, Rieko. So my take on all of this, on what you said, is that there are investment opportunities and many investors on the market who are ready to invest in the blue economy in the CMA region. But to access them, we have to build, and I'll reuse your 3 Cs, the competitiveness of the private sector and SMEs to present their ideas, to build the confidence of the private sector to get and implement the investments, and finally to strengthen the credibility of the private sector and SMEs to obtain the necessary credentials and experience in implementing their investments. So I will now pass the floor to our next and I think final speaker, Panayotis Gavras, who is head of policy and strategy at the Black Sea Trade and Investment Bank. And he, I understand, will tell us what are the bank's expectations regarding funding opportunities and more. Over to you, Panos.
Thank you, Nicholas. Black Sea Trade and Development Bank, although we do undertake investments as well as trade. So it's not inaccurate. Let me put it that way. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you to the organizers today for putting this together. I think it's very, very important to organize such events that focus on the Black Sea region, not least because I'll go back to one of the comments earlier about the limited investment that has been observed so far in the region. Yes, if for these type of issues, if you compare to Spain, Netherlands, France, Germany, whatnot, there is a relative lag. If you go back 10 years and see what was being discussed in this region, though, and where things are today, the progress is immense. It's in a very positive direction. And while there are still many issues that, in particular firms, we work mostly with private sector firms in our institution, the kind of things that they have to deal with on an everyday basis, the awareness that has entered the region, not just the EU members, although they've certainly benefited greatly for being in the EU over the course of a decade, but also these other countries which are potential candidates or neighbors or whatever their status is vis-a-vis the European Union. You do see a lot of growth. You do see a lot of interest. Some of it is genuine interest in things to do. Some of it is maybe out of fear, the potential reputational issues that may emerge from some of the, from either being left out or doing something that may put them in headlines of newspapers for all the wrong reasons. Nevertheless, there is an increasing awareness. And I think the most important thing is, in particular, when you're talking about private firms, there's a growing realization that there's opportunities as much as risks and challenges for them there. And this is a particularly important thing because what we are seeing, maybe is in our case at least, is not so much projects that fit the mold of a blue economy or are classic, projects that you'd say meet all the sustainable goals that you would want in the first place, but they're starting to bring in elements of this. They're becoming more and more interested as part of what they're doing to upgrade something, to do a bit of cleanup on the side, to do the kind of modernization that is required in order to bring into play systems, information systems that not only increase their efficiency, but also have beneficial side effects in terms of the communications, in terms of the cleaner technologies that they help support and that sort of thing. So there really has been a lot of progress, and we are guardedly optimistic. We can't be anything more than that because obviously the geopolitics in the region always remain tricky. And also I think our institutions, let me talk about the development banks, how they view things, because we are banks and we do need to see bankability in the type of projects that need to take place. There too, there has been some progress. I think there's more that needs to be done on the side of financiers who do these types of projects in terms of improving maybe their coordination and their institutional flexibility with each other. Again, there has been progress, and I want to stress the positive message behind this, but it's a process and it's one that is ongoing and is not yet completed itself, as we all know. I think we'd be deluding ourselves if we felt otherwise. But there are forums where things are being discussed, issues are being threshed out, and I think it's very important. There still is a piecemeal element to some of it, but you're seeing more, and even whether it is piecemeal, you're seeing more and more the same arguments in different forums. And this institutional breakup, sometimes you're looking at multilateral, sometimes you have national development banks, which are very interested in the region. Sometimes you have sub-regional development banks within the region of a country that are doing things. More and more, you're seeing a more coordinated approach. They seem to all be subscribing to certain things. The Sustainable Development Goals helped immensely with this alignment that we're observing. But it is a process, and we are learning as much as our potential clients are learning as well. And I think that's an important point to underscore. Now, coming to the nuts and bolts of what our expectations are, in the most simple terms, we need a good idea backed by a good business plan. That's easier said than done, of course. And this is where development banks can play a particular role in this case, with some of the risks, some of the non-commercial risks that come up with the projects that come into play. And also, I think the point that Rieko made about credibility was a very important and valid point. And that is an area where development banks can really help. They can help public actors, public agencies, as well as private firms that are interested in becoming more involved with direct provision back and forth of information, with the technical assistance that they're able to bring to the table, with some of the networking benefits, bringing various people around the table together, helping with examples back and forth. So on this particular thing, I think the development banks do have a lot of value added to provide in this process. But it all starts out with a really good idea. And obviously incubating those ideas is not something that development banks are particularly good at. We're better at helping to find the finance, organize the finance, but you need something good that's underlying it in order then to be able to construct around it and build the kind of project that you want to have. I won't go on beyond that too much. Clearly, a willingness to work, adapt, and learn is important on all sides. And I can't stress this enough. It's not just us, the development banks, it's also the clients with whom we work. It's the other parties that come into play that we work with, the EU, the rest of the development community included. And that will help us, I think, going forward. And certainly events like this, this is another small step in the right direction. We'll need to keep doing this. I think it's important to maintain the focus on the Black Sea region, which has been somewhat ignored over the course of the last 15 years. Speaking from my personal experience, because I've been doing this for probably what's longer than I would care to admit, in the run-up to 2007, there was to the financial crisis, really, 2008, and the accession of Bulgaria and Romania in the EU in 2007, there was immense interest in the EU. I remember 1 or 2 events every month that I was going to in Europe, in Eastern Europe, you name it, all over the place, even in the United States on a couple of occasions. The financial crisis of 2008 very much put a halt to that. There was less interest in cooperation. There was much more insularity for a number of years. Again, geopolitics didn't help. And some of those problems are still there, of course. But what we're seeing now is a much greater interest in the last couple of years. And it's interesting that the COVID crisis seems to have had the opposite effect of the global financial crisis. It seems to have catalyzed an understanding that cooperation is necessary, overcoming problems, and starting to move in this direction. So it's really an interesting thing to see. We went way up until 2008, then we went way down. There were a couple of years when I wasn't speaking anywhere, nor were any of my colleagues. And now it's actually picking up quite a bit. It has much more of a blue and a green focus than it did before, which is perfectly legitimate because those are the issues that are very much on the table. And I think that they lend themselves to cooperation in a way maybe that some other issues are a little bit trickier. But here, these are win-win situations across the board. And certainly development banks are they're made for cooperation. So they're only happy to do that whenever they get the chance. Thank you.
Good. Thanks a lot for that, Panos. And my apologies for having given the wrong name to your bank, which is the Black Sea Trade and Development Bank. Yeah, actually, that's for me, that's quite a nice way to close. And I understand that it is time to close. That the pandemic has shown that the scale of problems that we're facing are such that we need cooperation, that everybody going it alone or just relying on cutthroat competition is not what's going to get us out of the many, many problems which we're all facing, whether globally or in the region. And I actually liked very much what you also said about the let's start with a good idea. and allow the SMEs to develop the good ideas. And they have a number of partners who can help with that development of the good idea, but also change the balance between opportunities and risks. The risks are, as we all know, many of them. Then the helping change that balance will allow the SMEs maybe to focus on the good idea and how to develop it. And I think that we've heard from a number of people about the different instruments which could come to help rebalance the risk and therefore create the opportunities. So with that, I'd like to thank the people who did take the floor during the session. Now I'm handing, I understand, back to the plenary, and we're looking at the plenary session for the wrap up of the project hackathon sessions. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you, Nicholas, and thank you all speakers. It was clear here the message actually that there are more funds upcoming towards the direction that we are all discussing here in the CMA priority. So it's up to the stakeholders to take up the opportunity, let's say, create projects and move forward towards this direction. Thank you all. So let's go directly to plenary session 4, where quickly we would like to ask the moderators of the hackathon sessions, although we will have some small changes last minute, to give us very quickly the outcomes of the project hackathons. So I would like to ask Michaela for hackathon 1. I don't know if we have Michaela already.
I'm here.
Yeah. And then we will go with Georgia Hanji for hackathon 2 and Baris for hackathon 3. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So we had a very fruitful discussion. We have very interactive, and also Slido was generating a lot of good ideas. And we debated two sets. One is related to the network system areas, and not only also further.
Michaela, I don't know if it's on my side. I don't hear you very, very well. Maybe you go closer to the microphone because it makes some...
Let's try it now. Is it
yes,
better?
Seems better, yeah.
Great. So I will get back to the first project idea related to the network between the existing areas, the ones already existing, but also developing new ones and better connectivity. And as on the table, we're starting with the active generate the necessary science to create new protected areas and to capitalize the previous work, because many projects generated data that can be further applied. One was the Coconut project that
we have some problems.
all energies.
We can't hear you very well. Maybe let's try to be a bit more. Let's try once more and we see. Maybe if you don't go very quick, I don't know what's the case there, or the microphone needs to be. It's very sensitive. Let's see.
I will switch off also my video.
Maybe better. Maybe better. Yeah.
Also, it's a matter of connection. Okay, so connect marine protected areas with renewable energies and with the idea of offshore wind farms. Also, in the line of multi-use of the sea.
No, let me, Michaela. It's not working. Let me. I will try to give a quick wrap-up actually, because I participated there, but of course this could be later sent to all the participants. Sorry for that. So what we discussed in the hackathons were two ideas, one on creating an MPA network and one on digitalization. and how we can track and monitor environmental protection. In both discussions, it was obvious the interest of the participants, and especially to build on and capitalize on existing project ideas and move one step further. Digitalization can become of real help, but it's important to have an integrated approach and see how MPAs, for example, can work and integrated with other activities from fishermen, but also on the energy sector, and how to integrate ecotourism. So we would discuss on sealand usage and how ecotourism and its capacities could work further. It was also important to see that we discussed that this is the first step towards further ideas, and it is important that we heard already from the World Bank, but also from the Interreg BSB that they are going to have some funding opportunities soon. So these discussions will follow, and in order to create these synergies towards these specific ideas that, as we said in the hackathon, it needs to be one step further, so to integrate all these ideas together to go towards to scale up a little bit the work there. And finally, there was a discussion on the importance of data and how data could be harmonized, and also the importance of citizen science during this. I don't want to take more time, so we move to Georgia. Georgia for Hackathon 2, please.
Thanks, Thanos. I will try also to be quick. In the goal 2, we address 2 projects, as you said, 2 project ideas. The one to set up a network of local green and smart ports, and the other to support the sustainable tourism in coastal and maritime areas, placing emphasis on digital tourism. A lot of ideas actually were heard about these 2, more on tourism, less on ports, which gives us a general idea that with regards to the ports concept, there is a lack of proper information flow on what is going on actually at national level. And what was emerged from this discussion was that there is a need for a preliminary analysis or assessment, let's say, to identify the priorities, what has been done, challenges to support actually this network of ports. Another, let's say, challenge or priority that was identified is the further need to support, to bridge the industry-academia gap, and the need to support the capitalization of research projects by the industry, and support more the research and development and innovation branch of the research institutes. With regards further to challenges, as I said, there are fragmented initiatives already going on in the region that actually demand for a better coordination and cooperation among the involved stakeholders. And there is also a need to address this matter with in mind of taking into consideration the environmental protection policies and mechanisms. Some ideas about best practices that have been implemented by some countries and stakeholders were mentioned, like the artificial reefs by Georgia, and which should be further considered in the future. With regards again to skills enhancement and support to the sector's personnel, that was also a matter that was raised. There is a need to train the personnel to apply new policies, new mechanisms, new digital tools. And last but not least, the knowledge transfer from other sea basins that was also mentioned, especially since our discussion about the smart ports came after the very, very interesting and informative presentation by the WestMed, where the speaker presented very good practices on what they did to develop this network, which should be replicated and become a best practice for the Black Sea region. Moving on to the tourism goal, how to support the sustainable tourism in coastal and maritime areas, and how to make use of digital tools. Again, the environmental protection to mitigate the unregulated tourism development was mentioned. And again, the support to community-based tourism as a means to address the post-COVID recovery and support the local communities. And an idea was also mentioned on creating cross-border cooperation, for example, a network of coastal communities to further support sustainable tourism. We mentioned the niche markets for tourism, like underwater cultural heritage, where the support to this informal group was mentioned and how to better address it in the future. Also, yacht tourism was mentioned. And then again, the knowledge transfer and best practices from other projects and sea basins. Specifically, when it goes to digitalization, it was identified as a very important pillar. Also, the recent experience from the COVID era raised the importance of digitalization, but it also created 3 issues to be considered. First of all, the lack of harmonization of data that should be considered. Then the digital literacy and how to better support the people in the sector, working in the sector, to be able to use and apply these new digital tools, that they are many and they are most of them cost efficient and will facilitate their work, but most of them do not know how to use it yet. And then the metaverse, and who actually controls and owns all this virtual data that we put out there. And I would like to close by saying that there were 2 issues identified in both concepts, in both pillars. The first is the coordination and cooperation, the need for cooperation and coordination among all the stakeholders in a cross-sectoral, bottom-up and top-down approach, and the need to have inclusive projects, both in terms of beneficiaries, for example, to support women and the youth. It was mentioned that women are very underrepresented in the sector of the ports, and we should address this, and the youth, of course. And as I said, in terms of target stakeholders, that they should we should bring on board all sectors: academia, business, policy, and civil society. And a final note from our side: we hope that we will have more opportunities to discuss these issues in the future, because they are very interesting and there are a lot of ideas in the region that should be heard. Thank you. I guess I should pass.
So now it's for Baris. Sorry for that. For Hackathon 3, Baris, please.
Yes. Hackathon 3 was also a very successful session, I must say. And I'm also impressed. I'm very happy to see how this session has built upon the results of previous CMA conferences, activities, especially the entrepreneurship events that has been carried out during this year. The topics of Hackathon Goal 3 were quite broad, but still we received very good ideas. The first project concept was on encouraging business towards innovative blue economy across the Black Sea. And this project had overall very positive response and deemed as very relevant according to the pools, and important to further develop the concept by building on relevant local practices such as incubators, agencies, spin-off support services, clusters, especially in Turkey, Romania, Bulgaria, Georgia. They all underlined this. And one of the gaps that was mentioned several times was the lack of awareness on how to develop business on blue economy activities, and the need for networking and fostering matchmaking of innovative ideas, businesses, and investors. And it's very promising to see that several countries, actually at a very regional scale, very good practices are being picked up. For example, there's the Burgas Blue Initiative. They are already developing startups based on mimicking Preus municipality of Greece under the Blue Act project. And also at the local scale in Turkey, some new startups and projects are being developed. Of course, the time was too short for the specific details of this startup and new project ideas. But when we come to the concept B, which is on supporting existing maritime clusters to improve regional cooperation, again, similar concerns on need for networking and towards digitalization and for funding. These concerns were raised, but still the clusters deemed very relevant and important tool to accelerate transition to more sustainable and innovative blue economy. Also, it's important to map and access existing cluster practices in the region, these blue clusters, but also cross-cutting ideas are needed to on digitalization, on greening of sectors. So it was suggested that the information on these clusters are maybe they are put together in the form of a digital hub, and to support companies, entrepreneurs, and other parties, and towards greater digitalization and support these clusters. And it's this is important to share experiences and lessons and grow together by sharing views and joint actions in terms of clusters. I think in a nutshell, this is all I can tell about the two sessions. But as I said, the ideas were quite broad, and these were quite challenging also towards implementing of the CMA and implementing of Syria. But it's great to see all these new ideas are already emerging, and even we see how they are being implemented at the regional scale. And I have carried out the moderation of the session together with Matteo, and I would like to thank him for great support.
Thank you, Baris. Thank you all, actually. It's interesting to hear that the discussions during the hackathons went very well. As we are a bit late, I would like to invite for the conclusions already Mr. Yüksel, the Deputy Director General of Ministry of Foreign Affairs, to give us his conclusions, and then we would have from DG Mare, Patrizia Bussolini.
Thank you very much indeed. Actually, it's very impressive to see such a lively debates and presentations by all distinguished stakeholders. I would like to thank wholeheartedly to all participants in that sense, first of all. Actually, it's really, we are very happy as Turkey, because I do remember the Bulgarian coordination period, and now we are continuing. It reminds me a kind of flag race. I'm pretty sure that our Georgian colleagues will be moving it to a bit more higher than us. So it's very illuminating, first of all. And then we are very happy with the outcomes of today's stakeholders conference, because it's very hopeful. We are very hopeful with the active participation of all Black Sea countries for such a engagement, first of all. And I don't want to take much of your time, because we spent the whole afternoon discussing these details and various issues with all distinguished stakeholders and participants. So I would like to thank again, and we look forward to the upcoming steering group meeting, which will be sooner by the end of the year. And hopefully we will be having another meeting at the level of ministerial level. So we are very hopeful with the future of the CMA. And in that sense, I would like to thank wholeheartedly also our academics, especially for Syria contributions. and all the other contributions as well, because they are all very valuable for the work and for the future perspectives in front of us. Thank you very much indeed, once again.
Thank you, Mr. Yüksel. Thank you very much. And I would like to give the floor to close it with Patrizia Bussolini, Policy Officer of DG Mare and responsible for CMA agenda.
Thank you, Thanos. Good afternoon, good evening to all the participants. From my side, I would like, I'm not going to repeat, I would like first of all to thank the Turkish coordination for organizing this very annual event, really covering a lot of elements with the concrete, with a forward perspective on the future, but also with the concrete discussion on the projects and then on the financial opportunities. As DG Mare's Commission, I would like to thank the moderators for their support with their insightful knowledge on the region during the plenary sessions, and also, of course, to all the speakers and also to the stakeholders for their concrete participation, as we have heard in the hackathon session. This is very important because the projects we are discussing, we have been discussing this afternoon, are really the result of the commitment, a continuous commitment of the countries and all the stakeholders. So, and it was not evident to arrive to these results under the situation of the pandemic, where we could not meet even once. So I will really, as Commission, as DG Mare, praise again the commitment of all the Common Maritime Agenda countries, all the regional actors and all the stakeholders for the commitment and work. We believe that that indeed what Mr. Yüksel said, it reflects also our view. And indeed, the agenda of the event today reflects indeed the approach of the 2021 Turkish coordination of the Common Maritime Agenda. It is to say a coordination that has been and is very concrete, pulling together the key actors in the key moments and focusing a lot on projects with very concrete achievements. So our will is that we continue in this way with this approach also in 2022, but we have heard already from the upcoming Georgia coordination that they have quite clear ideas, and that indeed they continue the process that the Bulgarian coordination and also the Turkish coordination as more and more concretized and stabilized in the past 2 years. So thank you very much also from our side, and we look forward to see you to the next regional event. Thank you very much for staying with us until now.